Hello, everyone. Welcome. So nice to have you here. Hope you're doing well today. And if you're not doing well, I'm glad you made it to this space anyway. And hopefully, it's a nice space to dial in. Grab a coffee or tea and let's hang out and dial in on some health and wellness for the week. Get everything moving in a great direction, hopefully the best direction that we can. So going to dive in today on some broader reflections on the culture and then how that culture is shaping us, how we can move toward it or think about it in a way, hopefully, that will help us to chart our own course forward, better define our relation to it in a way that helps us to be as healthy as possible. So I often refer to this culture, this cultural moment, as consumption culture. And I think that really captures a lot of the ethos of so much of what is going on really across culture broadly. And then, what we're specifically concerned about, food culture, eating culture, social pressure to eat in certain ways is something that I'm personally really interested in helping people unpack so that we can create a healthy food culture, an effective food culture, which to me would be the type of culture that people really enjoy while simultaneously promoting health. And such a thing is possible. Human society has had such a culture for the majority of its experience, I would say. And so we're living in a really, I think, difficult time in general, but especially with food culture. Christy is with us. Good morning. So nice to have you here. Hope you're doing well. This is why I think we really need to be very thoughtful in how we think about culture and food culture so that we can move forward in the most thoughtful and healthy way. M. Palmer is here. Been a while. Yes, I hope you're doing well. So nice to have you here. So think about the messages that we get from the culture, just broadly. Culture, I often define culture as kind of like if we weren't to make any of our own decisions, we just do what everybody else does. Culture is kind of the default set of decisions that everybody makes. And so that can be really helpful. We're all overloaded. We have so many things on our plate, tons to do. And so when it's like, well, I don't have so much capacity, like, well, what's everybody else doing? I'll just do that. So when we look at the situation with eating, okay, P. Brown, good morning. Happy Sunday. Really nice to have you here as well. When we look at the situation with culture and food, I think, in broad strokes, we can look at the culture and say, well, this isn't really optimal. We're not heading as a society in a really ideal, healthy direction with food and consumption of food. And that's a trend that reflects, the broader pattern. So when we think about these broader patterns, right, like what are messages we get from culture? More, like this is a message that we're always getting. You need more stuff, more gadgets, more technology. You need to buy something. Definitely the television, the marketing, the ads, right? Need to consume and then eating, part of that. A lot of social pressure to conform everywhere. And so if we want to embark on a different course than that, okay, we need boundaries, right? So how do you have a boundary, okay? Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we all face, right? Because the culture is huge. Like, this really is a different type of moment, in the human experience. Because I think because of mass media, social media, like in the past, like if we go back a little bit, okay, into like the TV era, we went from radio to TV, and it's like, okay, this is like the beginning of mass media. Like culture is being really like uniformly pumped out to everybody. And then social media has amplified that, where like people at least feel like they're just in this big mix of everything. And so culture went from like your town to like national and global. And that has exposed the whole culture to mass marketing and mass manipulation of opinion based on financial, interests. And that can really, I think that's really impacted the mix for sure. Has this whole experience then taken us in a positive direction? Most people would say no. Okay, like we're dealing with all these chronic health problems, people struggling to lose weight. We're in a space where, I think it is the biggest challenge. So if we're trying to create a boundary from that, right, we can recognize the good in it, right? I think the good side of it, right? We live in an age of overwhelming abundance, and you can go on Amazon and, almost anything you want. You say, I just click a button and it shows up on your door. Like that is a miraculous culture to live in. And so, we want to see the good and the bad. The other side of it is that it makes it very difficult to say no when we're in this culture's instant gratification all the time. We're trying to cordon off a space for us physically with our eating, right? But when we look into the broader picture, we're just practicing, in this culture, like, oh, I want something and I can have it. We don't have to wait. Makes it harder to create this boundary in our eating. Like we're here on a fasting channel, right? Which is about trying to cordon off our eating into a very thoughtful space where we can really enjoy it, where it can work physiologically with the body, and then where we have an open space where we say, hey, this isn't the time for that. And I'm going to give the body some time to rest and reset and bring everything back into balance. Balance, not really a word that I would use to describe our current culture, kind of out of balance. We want to create a culture. I would say, I do. I want to create a culture that helps bring all this back into balance, where we can have the incredible benefits of this society, without the drawbacks, right? Where we bring it into a space where we can really thrive and flourish. So in order to do that, everybody with me, here's what you've got to say. Ready? No. You've got to say no. And so the practice of setting boundaries is a practice of learning to say no, to say no in a more thoughtful, consistent, healthy way. Saying no is one of the hardest things, I think, to do. And our culture, I know my experience, even within medicine, when I look within, medicine doesn't do a lot. Our culture does not do a lot to help people say no. Like we definitely, tell me if you agree, we have a yes culture. Like someone asks you to do something, like the default is like, you're being rude if you don't say yes. And so that leads us into this state where saying no can lead us to feel guilty about things. But like we have to really change that. Like the default, I think pretty much the default for everyone across every decision should be no for almost everything. From what do we buy, to what do we think about, to what do we watch, and then what do we eat, right? Because we're just flooded, like I was saying, this whole culture is flooded with the messages, right, of more and buy and better. When, one of the things that I've really tried to put into my videos is like this phrase, like good enough. Like, when can we ever get to good enough? Like we're in this society of almost infinite abundance, more food than anyone can possibly eat, more stuff than anyone could ever buy. And yet people now more than any time in history feel less content. Nobody feels like they have enough. Like there's another word that you don't hear in this culture, enough. Like when do we have enough, What is enough food? What is enough things? What's enough, So this is where we're going to really try to dive in. I'm trying to dive as deep as we can on it. How do we get to a space of enough? You got to say no, okay, to all the stuff that we don't need. We reframe our experience of saying no to things. We don't feel guilty about saying no anymore. Ideally, we minimize it, right? When no becomes the default, no is where you draw that line, right? Where you say, this is my space. This is my culture, my micro little culture. And the way that I am choosing to live is like our little bubble, right? In this culture, our little fortress, however you want to think about it. What you say no to defines where that edge is. What are you going to tolerate? How much of this culture are you going to let wash over you and define you? Versus where do you set the edge of say, hey, these are the things actually that I value and that are important to me. Say, maybe make a list right now, maybe a mental list, maybe you want to actually write it out. What are 3 things this week that you need to say no to? Maybe that you haven't. It can be a powerful exercise, and it can be, I'll tell you, a difficult exercise. What do you say no to? Okay, it could be, quote unquote, bad things. Okay, it's easy to say no to something that we judge as not healthy or not good. Or it's at least easier. Or maybe you disagree. You say, oh, it's even difficult to say no to, some sugary treat or whatever the thing is, okay? But however hard it is to say no to something bad, how about saying no to things that are good? Okay, so that's another thing to think about. You say, why would we ever say no to something that is good? Listen to this, okay? You have to say no to things that are good in order to make room in your life for things that are better. Or you have to say no to the good things in order to make room for the best things. And that is something to me that has been, really a space to sit in and think about. That we are, sometimes I think about it this way. We are these small little creatures. We have this one life and we have a finite amount of time, and there's only so many things that we can actually do. Like, in the face of this consumption culture, right? This mass marketing, billions of dollars telling us you need to buy these things, right? And the way everything is geared, right? It's emotional content. Like, you watch an ad, it's geared to like make you feel something, right? Like, we only have so much bandwidth and capacity to, I think, handle so many emotions and things within a day. So we want to fill our experience, right, with the best things. Like, we only have so many things we can do and think and experience. And how much of that bandwidth do we want to allow to be devoted to things that a corporation decided, that someone else said it was the priority, what someone else is doing who's not on our path, right? If you're going to walk on a path that is heading in a direction of weight loss, practicing fasting to help heal the metabolism in the body, burn up excess blood sugar, like all these things, that's a countercultural path, right? That's not the path that the average person in this country is on, or wherever you're watching globally, right? That's not the main direction. Now, it's an aspirational vision. It's something that can happen in the future, and I hope does. A lot of people want it to be, and so hopefully we can make it happen. But you have to be a little different. You have to have an open mind, a different mindset to say, I'm going to walk a little bit different path, and we're going to say no to these things that are not taking it there. Feel free to share, even over the week, as you're thinking about it. Maybe you think this week, what are things that you say no to? Feel free to come back, throw it in the comments to the video, throw it in the chat if you're inclined. That can be a very personal thing, though, so wherever you're at with it. I'll just make the broad observation. I think a consumption culture is not taking us to a better place, and so it's okay to say no to it. I would say, in general, 3 different ways that are coming to me right now that it's not really working. Okay, the first is I think the top sales point from a consumption culture, right, is, hey, if you listen to this, right, the messages, you're going to be happy, right? If nothing else, you're going to be happy. My experience with that has not been that that's the case. Have you ever had it where you really, there's something you really want to buy? I'm going to get this thing, and then I'm going to be happy, right? And then you've gotten it. How long does that last, right? Sometimes it's like 10 minutes. It's like, okay, like now you have this thing, and it's like, eating can definitely be like that. Do you experience that? Like, especially if you struggle with like eating some like unhealthy thing. And if you've watched the channel, I say people, you can eat whatever you want, have a treat, I'm not an absolutist or purist, but like a routine struggle with something where you say, I can't stop eating this sort of thing. You say, oh, when I eat this, like, then I'm going to be happy. That experience lasts for how long, right? 10 minutes you get out of it. And then you feel like, I wish I wouldn't have done that. So a great piece of advice that I got, which is a difficult piece of advice, happiness has to come from within. The message we get from the consumption culture is that happiness is external to us, and that we have to buy it or consume it in order to bring it into our being. And that is completely false. That is the false promise. And that's why people are not satisfied by this culture. That's why people aren't happy in general, when they buy things. And it's why I think in big measure, people, have you read, we have a loneliness epidemic, all these things. People are trying to purchase happiness, and they're trying to consume it and bring it in, instead of realizing that happiness is already inside of us. But we have to look for it, realize it, like have enough awareness to see that it's there in the midst of the difficulty and the struggle that we face in life. This is something that when I heard it, I didn't believe it. And I would say it's something that I'm personally still working on. I really think it's true, though. Happiness is inside us. And so when we create a culture, a different type of culture, a microculture, right, within this culture that recognizes that, I think that'd be a big step in helping us actually be happier, yes, and healthier. So another big area that is sold on consumption culture is like, you keep consuming is the way to health, okay? And this is, what we're trying to do on this channel is push back against that. Say no. But here's the line. You don't consume your way in general to better health. With maybe some caveats with healthy food, because eating healthy food, maybe that is the one way to consume your way to health. Having healthy food is maybe the very most important decision that we make. And then maybe a decision to have a fasting space is number 2 behind that, like to bring things into balance. But everything else, I'd say, think about the marketing, think about the culture. Everyone is trying to sell you health. This is just like happiness, right? People trying to sell you the idea that happiness is outside of you and you have to buy it to bring it in. No, happiness is inside, okay? People trying to sell you the idea that health is also external to you. That if you don't buy our product or do our thing, okay, you have to purchase and consume health to bring it in. No, health is in here, right? A human being is a healthy being, right? And so we need to, just like we're looking for happiness inside, and then we allow it to come out, right? We need to find that health inside of us to the greatest extent that we can. And that's a big way to push back against this idea of like consuming health. That idea is not really taking us in a better direction. I think about, there's tremendous value in the healthcare system. I don't want to be like, I want to be balanced. I love the healthcare system, right? You don't find an MRI scanner out in the woods, right? You need to, and what a valuable thing. And think of all the technology. I think it's all great. I'm not opposed to technology, but we have to put it in its place, right? An ideal healthcare system would be one in which it helps the people who are connected to it need an MRI scanner the least, right? So like, I'm happy that we have MRI scanner, right? I'm happy that we have trauma surgeons and everything, right? But like, we want to utilize those products and services absolutely as little as possible. Like, I'm happy that we have 1,000 different drugs to treat 1,000 different things. But this is a culture that needs, those types of things, right? We have cultures in the past that don't need so much of that. So we say, well, this whole sort of idea, health is external and you consume it, it's not working, right? I mean, this whole system is not working. And I think if we recognize that health can be cultural, like this seems obvious to me now that, I'm really seeing it, but it doesn't seem to be a part of our collective medical experience, that health is cultural. Well, maybe the focus, if we want better health, needs to be on creating a healthy culture. This is what I think is true. Pat says this week, saying no to eating after 7, an incredibly powerful decision. I love that. Absolutely. Eating when hungry instead of planning what I'm going to eat for the day before. That can be a really powerful choice, and that is a personal sort of thing. I really personally really like it. There, of course, can be benefits to the planning, and the structure, but like having an open mind to that is also opening up. It's opening up the best possible scenario where you're creating an environment where it's not on the mind. Like if you're planning for it and you set everything up for it, it's going to be much harder not to do it. But when you leave the space open, you lean into the body, it can be a powerful mindset. Skipping movement exercise. I'd love to hear more about that. Is the thought process behind that is going to say, is it stressing you out? You say, I'm just going to take a pass on that, kind of open up the space. I mean, I love the thought process. I have to get into your head on that one. So a consumption culture that I can see not really leading to happiness, not really leading to better health, and then not specifically the thought that was coming to me, not helping people lose weight. Like the main thing that I want to help people do, help people just see, okay, weight loss is not as complicated as we have made it. There is a simple path forward toward it. I always try to use the word simple and not easy because I know that it is a struggle for so many. And so the idea, though, is by making it simple, that we make it as easy as possible. So I'm not telling anybody that it's easy, but everything I'm trying to do on the channel here and the broader work with simple fasting, help people slowly, thoughtfully, gently move toward an understanding of what is happening in the body physiologically, that body fat is energy, and that it was purposefully put there by the body. Now, we get mad at the body, right? That it does it. But we try to reframe all of these negative thoughts to see the good and understand it, because it can help us come to peace with it, to understand it, right? We are in this culture, right? This is the broader thing. This is what I was getting into in that talk about how we have labeled everybody diseased with obesity, and we judge people. This is where I've come to see through that. The average person in medicine is really liking this idea, because they say, oh, when we call obesity a disease, then it's less stigmatizing. People don't have to feel bad about it. I think the opposite. Increasingly, I think the opposite. We come to see what is happening is that the body is not broken, that there are natural processes running in the body, and this is not so much anybody's fault as the fact that we're in a consumption culture. There's never been a culture like this. The human being is not, designed, evolved, created, whatever, to function in this sort of environment. We're all trying to sort it out, right? And so how do you navigate a culture, an environment that supports making all the wrong decisions as far as how the body's physiologically working? The body's like, oh, this is not making sense, right? There's highly processed foods here. We don't need so much of that. What do we do with it? Like, there's more energy than we need. Well, I don't know. Maybe the famine is going to strike next year, and maybe we'll be better off taking the gamble to hang on to it. This has been the calculation that has served humanity well as long as there have been people, right? And it's like, this has worked, okay, for millennia, like right up until the present moment. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, like uncomprehensible abundance is everywhere, more energy coming into the system. The body's like, well, we'll tuck this away for later. Like, it's not really body doesn't know anything else to do other than that. And so now we can start to see, okay, we are putting our bodies in a difficult situation in this culture. A thoughtful culture will start to try to change that. Lots of people trying to change that. Say, we need to focus, we need to dial out all the processed food, focus on getting core healthy nutrition, give the body space. So you say, oh, I see how the body is working. Okay. We need to give the body space. We need to allow the body to use the energy within us. Okay. Okay. Just like happiness is inside us already, health is within us. The ability to lose weight, okay, is also within us, because the weight we want to lose is the energy that we use to power our body. It's already there. And so I think of the whole weight loss industry, right? What does a weight loss industry do? It sells you products, right? The whole weight loss industry itself, this is what is so crazy, is a part of consumption culture, right? It's selling more and more products to help you lose weight. Oh, you want to lose weight? Buy my supplement, right? Take my $1,000 drug, which I'm not criticizing anyone for doing it. Do it. If it helps you, it's fine. But just think of the cycle of it, right? Eat my special food product. All this is bringing it in. And I want to see all this stuff resides inside of us, right? Already. There would be a really powerful mindset. Weight loss is inside of myself already, right? It's already here. It's in your body. It's in your mind. It's in the thought process, right? Everything that we do in our life it starts with a thought, right? Everywhere we go, everything we eat or buy, it starts with thinking. So the new thought, right, is the weight loss thought, right? It's to recognize is already within me. I don't need to look externally for it. I don't need to buy it. Actually, the process of saying no two things is how you draw the line and turn that focus internally to actually access it, right? To recognize the power within the body, that you are strong, powerful, capable. You have everything that you need already within you, nothing to buy. That's why I changed over this branding. I like it for simple fasting. Lose weight for free. That is the core of it, right? Fasting is free. Fasting is the alternative to consumption culture, right? It's fasting culture, right? Which I would boil down to contentment culture. The broader, the narrow focus, okay, simple fasting is like help someone lose weight for free. Beautiful. The broader scope of it is help someone find contentment in their life, Consumption culture sell us on the idea you can't be content without consuming. A fasting culture says I am content right now and I don't need anything else, right? Happiness comes from within. Health is coming from within. The energy that I need in large measure is already inside of me. Our one caveat we said before, okay, we can't fast forever. I'm not suggesting that in any fashion. When we do need nutrition, we need energy, right? And so that's the balance. The balance to the whole thing is we eat healthy food and we find contentment also in that space. We find contentment in a fasting space. We find contentment eating healthy food. And because the purpose of a food, right, is not to bring in something into the body to bring us happiness, even though it can. It's not even so much, yes, to find health, yes, through food, absolutely, I would say. That is what it is about. Contentment, bringing health and nourishment into the body. One of the things that can be most difficult for people that I've encountered, someone says, okay, I see that. I want to bring health into my body through food. I also want to balance that out with fasting. Okay, fasting is not the appropriate place for every person. And one of those situations, okay, healthy, growing kids, right? So somebody says, well, I want to be fasting, but I got to cook for my kids, right? I got to make meals for my family. Like not everybody in my family in a mental space or even needing or wanting to practice fasting. And so that can be a difficult space to navigate. I spend a lot of time talking with people about that. What do you do when you're the person who's doing the cooking and you make all this, you want to make good, healthy, tasty food for people, but you don't want to be eating? One of the phrases I've used quite a lot is to think of fasting as a gift, right? It's a type of gift that you give to yourself. Love that, because I think that's true, especially when you get into autophagy. All right. Food is also a gift. And healthy food, especially a gift, right? Even unhealthy food could be a gift, right? You give someone some sweet treat. It's like trying to give something that is like, oh, that was so good as a treat. It's a special, it's lavish. You want to give lavish, gift to people you love and care about. But cooking someone nutritious, healthy food, that is a gift. So this is one of the best mindsets that I've had to get into this space. Is it better to give or to receive, right? I would say you ask a kid, right? You ask a little kid, they say it's much better to receive, right? But isn't the case? Isn't it the case that as we carry on our earthly journey, isn't it better to give a gift, actually, right? To be able to, in some small way, impart happiness to another person, right? That is giving a gift. I don't know that we often think of cooking a meal, just especially a routine one, as just like giving a gift to someone. But I encourage people, take this mindset. It's better to give than to receive. Take a meal that you are cooking for someone, make that your gift for them, and recognize, okay, it's better to give than to receive as like a philosophical concept. You say, okay, I get it. Now here with food specifically, it's like double true. To give a food away, right? And not to receive it, that's the fasting space, right? That's a gift going out, cooking healthy food for people, beautiful. That's a fasting space coming in, that's giving yourself a gift. Sometimes people will feel guilty. I've talked with people to cook food and not eat with someone, right? That's another thing you need to unwind. Another thread that comes into that space, because we have the culture, right, is telling everyone, oh, you need to eat, you need to eat. People say, well, is it setting a bad example to other people in my family, especially kids? People say, do I not want to have my kids see, that I'm just not eating for long periods of time? Okay, listen, kids need to eat. Now, we have a whole crisis with obesity and diabetes in children, and that's mainly, I think, from high fructose corn syrup and all the garbage that kids are eating. I put on my things, okay, fasting not for kids. I'm not saying that. It's like, but look, kids are going to be not kids pretty soon. That's what I'm going through. My kids getting so big, like it goes fast, right? We need to, part of the culture is we need to help everyone, including kids, understand like what is happening nutritionally, metabolically, societally. I think it's actually exceptionally positive to have adult role models for kids who have boundaries and effective and thoughtful boundaries. To see that modeled from an early age, to say, like, oh, they're making me food, I need to eat. Like, there's a season for all these things, right? But like, here's this person, like, they say a no to food. Like, that's actually something that you can do. Like, that's exceptionally positive. So I don't know if anyone has struggled with relationships or conversations like that. I would just encourage people, I hope this gives you some language or concepts to approach spaces like that thoughtfully with people that you care about. I'm not saying you can never have a meal, okay? I'm just saying, where is your no? Like, I'm saying no to this meal and this meal, but yes to this one. And then I want you to really enjoy that. You know what I mean? Bring as much joy and meaning and value as you can possibly extract from it. And the same thing, like if you cook a meal for someone and you're not eating it and you're going to have a fasting space and they're eat it, it's better to give than to receive, and get as much joy and meaning and value from that. That's the opposite. That's the inverse of a consumption culture. Consumption culture telling you you're going to derive joy and meaning, happiness and health by buying this product and consuming it, when you are going to experience actually all of those things when you give it away, right? You give that to someone else and then you will actually experience it. That is a path to finding contentment. Okay, this is what I was saying. This is what I want for everybody. How do you find contentment in life? In a society that never has enough. Like, we need to have enough. And so as I was doing a little thinking about this week, I said, well, what do other people say about this? I thought I will do some research. And the extent of my research on this topic involved typing consumption culture into Google. Okay, so I typed consumption culture into Google, and it gave me one of these AI summaries, and I thought I'd just share with you the AI summary. Do we have it? So it says, I'll just read it to you. Anyone can do it, but these are some interesting things to think about as we think about building out contentment. Okay. Google says the culture of consumption refers to a societal environment where purchasing and using goods and services is a central part of life, influencing people's values, activities, and even their sense of identity. Like, isn't that profound? Like, I just read that first sentence and I was like, oh man, like, isn't that the case? And then you realize, like, actually how deep it is. Like, this is if we're getting into like the core of how people define themselves and what they do, we are like really getting deep into the root of what's happening. It's a system where buying and owning things becomes a primary way to express oneself and find meaning in life. Holy cow. How do you find meaning in life? Like, this is what I'm really trying to do. And what part does food and consumption play in that? The culture is not just about acquiring things. It's deeply intertwined with social status, personal identity, even how people perceive and navigate the world. Yes, this is exactly what we're trying to unravel. We want to see this and recognize this. This is what our culture is struggling with, right? This is the culture, right? And then we're a part of that culture. It's deeply intertwined. And this is why the challenge is so significant, to deviate from it, to move in a different direction, right? You have to be very thoughtful, right? And this is what I'm trying to help you do, to say no to the enough things, right? You can't say no to everything, but to find the things. What are the things that you value, right? What are the things that you want to prioritize? Key aspects of the culture of consumption: emphasis on acquisition, a core element, the constant drive to acquire goods and services, often fueled by advertising and social trends. Yeah, so we have to acquire things. We got to go to a grocery store. We got to buy things. It's not like you can never buy things. But just think of this part of it. How much of what we buy is actually driven by advertising and social trends? Like things, if the social trend is not going in a good direction, well, you don't want to be part of it, right? If the desires and the thoughts are put in there by seductive programming and advertising, like so much of it is. Okay. Identity formation. People use their consumption choices, brands, and styles to express who they are, to signal their social group. So as we're really trying to dive into it, what are choices that you can make that are, what kind of identity do you want to have? And if our purchases and the things we buy are actually doing that in this culture, like, what do you want your choices to say about who you are and what you value? It's like, I'm a person that values the healthiest food because I know that I'm building my body. I'm rebuilding my body every day. I want to build it out of the healthiest things. I'm someone who values actually less consumption, open space, recognizing health within myself. Okay, I don't have to read all these social influences, ideology of choice. impact on values and behaviors. Consumer culture can shape individual values, leading us to focus on material possessions and status symbols. Okay. This whole Google thing, it's not focused on food, right? But all these concepts you can take, it's all part of it. It's all in the mix. They put then in the summary examples of consumption culture: fashion, brand loyalty, experiences. Maybe eating gets into an experience, at least a little bit. Bigger is better mentality, right? All that is leading to the idea that we can't have enough. So fasting, to me, is saying no to constant consumption. It's the part of saying no that is specifically focused on food. You can use it as like a training program. Say, if you can say no to consumption culture on food, you can say no to it on anything, right? Food is probably the most difficult part of the whole thing to say no to unravel, to get control of, because it's the part of it that we just like completely bring inside of us, right? Like we are consuming is becoming part of us. That's the most intense. And then we're tasting it, feeling it, like experiencing it. So if you have thoughts like I do, you don't have to have great success losing weight, but if you have thoughts like I do, like this whole consumption culture, this is a little much, we need to bring it back into balance, okay? Fasting is a part of saying no to that can both bring physical health, give yourself the gift, autophagy, use the energy within you, empowering. What an incredible opportunity to utilize a simple practice of openness and saying no to help the body. And then that's a training program that can help you in other areas of life to say, hey, actually, I don't need more and constant and consuming. And that whole process together can help to create a physical, mental experience of contentment, to recognize, hey, I have enough. This is just marketing. This is advertising. This is a culture that is heading in a direction that isn't healthy. I don't need that. I can be content. I have happiness here inside myself. This is all I need. And I'm going to be okay with what I have right now in this space. I said in the beginning that you have to say no to good things in order to make room for better things, for the best things. I think fasting, actually, to me, fasting is one of the best things. Very hard to see through the lens of this culture. Fasting in many ways is like the antithesis of this culture. This culture says you need to constantly consume. Fasting says, actually, I don't need to consume anything for a significant period of time. And not only will I be okay, I'll actually be much better off. Powerful. Invert. What do you think of that? Do you think fasting really is one of the best things? If fasting was a pill that you could consume, if you could consume fasting in a pill, it's like, well, here is a pill that is going to burn up energy within your own body, revitalize your metabolism, help you lose weight, and prime your immune system on cancer seek and destroy mode. You say, be an incredible thing. I want to buy that. I want to bring that into my body, right? Okay, the way you bring fasting into the body is just by saying no and not bringing anything else into the body. Then you get it. It's the only way you can get that space, right? You say, I want the autophagy effect. I want the body burning through the excess. I want to chisel away everything that I don't need to kind of free up that core health that is in there. The only way to get to that space is to fast. And that space is one of the most health promoting experiences that you can have. Right? So that is one of the best things. You have to say no to some other good things to open up space for that. I try to help you do that on this channel. I made a video this week for fasting aids. Fasting, I never say, oh, is it? It's not that it's easy. It is simple. It is direct. Can be difficult to do, especially in the face of a culture like this. So I made the fasting aids video. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Top 4 things that you can consume that I call like training wheels, like a crutch, help you get through a difficult space. I've done tons of fasting. I've experienced it where I was like, you're hungry. You say, oh, my man, it feels like the body is telling me like, oh, I need to eat now. Most of that time, as long as you're not struggling with a blood sugar disorder or something like that, most of the time that is just the experience of the body's, what its expectations are. Body's expectations are we're going to eat, and it got all these digestive stuff ready to go to blast everything up. And then if you don't do that, the body is like, whoa, like, what are we doing? That comes on like a wave. You say, I got to make it through it. Now that wave can be very intense. Hormones, very intense, right? And so that process controlled hormonally. See, I don't have the mindset. I never want any person ever to be stressed by fasting. Someone say, oh, it's too intense. Well, you can just eat. But if you're in the space, you say, I want to try to make it through, but I can't make it all the way through. The things I listed, I put on there. This wonderful beverage that I consume a lot, chia seeds mixed up with lime and a drop of honey. Very nice. You consume something like that, so many satiety promoting messages coming to the body. Energy is here, hydration is here. That can really quench a hunger wave. A similar sort of beverage you can drink with a fiber supplement that I showed on there. Fiber supplement, if you get ones without sugar, it can even be calorie-free, can even really be pretty pure fasting. But you can add a little juice to make it nicer. Here I'm recreating the whole video for you. You can just watch it. Ease your way through it in as thoughtful and gently a way as possible, recognizing, okay, weight loss and experiences of most kinds is rarely a linear process. Things come in waves and cycles. And so sometimes people experience it. They say, hey, I was doing some fasting. It seems so much easier. Now it is so much more difficult. Like, just give yourself grace, kindness, patience with that. Meet your body wherever you're at now, from a mindset of, hey, this is a partnership, the body, the mind, and we're going to move toward this in as thoughtful a way as possible. Let me know how does that sit with you? Do you have reflections today on consumption culture? Do you think that these thoughts are helping you to see it in a helpful and constructive way? If you found some benefit from it, I don't usually like to say it, but to give a like, I try to see, give a like to the episode if you like it. I would like to see this type of message, shared with more people. I would like to have broader discussion, about this, the culture and where we're going. In the ideal world that I would see, I would say, the culture can be what we want it to be, collectively, and if enough of us come together and say like, hey, actually, this is something that I really value. I agree. Like, the fasting space actually does have great value. That really is like what we need. That's what I see. If our culture starts embracing a fasting mindset, we start becoming people who say, you know what, my highest priority actually is that I am content. And I recognize that I have enough. Like, more and more people having that sort of mindset, that is going to have a ripple effect. That's what I see. That's how we bring health to the healthcare system, you know? It's like that's how we bring health to ourselves. It's how health can really start to flourish. That we all need to use, that's the goal. We need to use this healthcare system as little as possible. Then the resources are freed up for when people really need it, you know, all the unfortunate things that just happen that are beyond our control. Take this sort of mindset into the week. A culture of contentment, that's better. A culture of contentment as opposed to a culture of consumption. I hope that thought serves you well. Really wonderful to share this space with you today. I will sign off, share additional thoughts or perspectives on this throughout the week. Come back to the video, throw some things in the comments, be happy to chat with you. And I will see you back here next Sunday. Have a good one, everyone.